So good evening. My name is José da Costa. I am the director of the Weiterbildung, and I will be moderating tonight's doku debate around sleep. We chose a documentary from Deutsche Welle. We have 4 experts with us, and the title of the documentary is How to Get a Good Night's Sleep, and it will be in English. It's from 2020. It's a co-production between Arte and Deutsche Welle, and the 4 experts that we have today is Chloe Baumann, Philip Bowler, Tanya Hammer, and Dominique Antiglio. And in a few minutes, everybody will introduce her or himself. I would like to just go through the planning of the evening. So there will be a short introduction of the experts. We will be watching 4 different segments, 3 from the documentary, and the 4th segment is actually 2 different videos, very short videos about sleep in relationship to children and school-aged kids. We will have also, when we are done discussing, after each segment, we'll show the segment, we'll share it together on screen. And after each segment, we'll have a discussion between us, between the experts, and I'll be moderating the debate or the discussion. After the segments, the 4 segments, we'll have a Q&A session, and everybody will be allowed to send in a question in the chat function. You can write it. I will then pick it up and read it, and we'll discuss it. We'll see who wants to answer the different questions that we might get. After that will be a very short conclusion before we say goodbye for the night. So just a moment. I would like to start then by inviting each expert to present herself or himself. And it would be good to start, let's say, with Chloe.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Chloe Baumann. I'm working as an occupational psychologist in a small company in Luxembourg, which is called Pétience. And a few years ago, I met a very famous sleep expert who is called Patricia Tassi when I was studying neurosciences. And this is where came my passion for improving sleep for people. So I hope it's the case for you all tonight.
About yourself, do you have good sleep?
Actually, I have 2 sleep diseases. So I have to reduce as much as possible the interaction of everything else, but it's not linked to like screens and so on. It's I can't get rid of it. But I have quite a good sleep. It's okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Philip, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hello, I'm Philip Bowler. I'm an osteopath and a yoga teacher. I'm a dad as well of 2 little children. One is 2 months, so I'm pretty tired at the moment. Just in tune for today's theme. And yeah, I'm happy to share what I came across as an osteopath and as a yoga teacher concerning sleep.
Okay. I hope some other experts will give you tips on how to manage sleep when you have children. If it's even possible, I don't know. Dominique, do you want to go next?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Dominique Antiglio. I'm a sophrologist, an author. I'm based in London, and my passion is to help people who are stressed and anxious and want to create a life that they're happy about. And to do that, I'm using sophrology, which is a mind-body practice for mental well-being, blending relaxation, breathing, visualization, and movement. And that has been my passion since I'm 15, because I experienced health issues that were solved through sophrology. And I do sleep well. I think I have a good gene, so I'm lucky. I have had sleep interruption for the last 5 years, having a 5-year-old. And that's the first time I really experienced how sleep deprivation really influences everything in your life. And yeah, so that has been, in a way, a very enlightening experience.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And feel free to share any secrets that you have picked up on the way with us later on.
With pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you. Tanya, you're next.
Hello, I'm Tanya Hammer. I'm a graduated educator and I work at a parental school. Before, I've been for nearly 20 years the manager of a childcare center. And why I'm so interested in sleep is during my whole experience in the childcare center, with the meetings with the parents, everything was always around sleep. So that's why when I started work also in a parental school, I started really to work the theme of sleep. And I produce now an evening over the sleep. So for a lot of parents, and it's a lot of success, just already the explanation. And for myself, I have also 2 children, and one is 6 and one is 8-year-old. And my 8-year-old, in whose room I'm sitting, hasn't slept for 4 years and crying every night. And so I know also what it is of not sleeping, and I can really, I can understand the people and also give sometimes a little help and advice, but I have no recipe to make children sleep really good. So
All right, Tanya, thank you very much. First of all, to the experts, thank you very much for the time that you are taking to be a part of this docu debate. It's very well appreciated, and I thank you in advance for your time and participating in it. So if everybody is okay, we're going to start with the first segment. It's a 5-minute long segment that we're going to watch together here on screen. And the main topics that are addressed in this segment are stress, anxiety, some statistics, and a little bit of the sleep cycles, the technical side of the sleep cycles. So let me just change screen and I'll launch the first segment. Can you see the screen? Okay, perfect. Here we go.
Other factors, in particular stress and anxiety, also play a role. 1/3 of France's population regularly have trouble sleeping. 6 million combat their insomnia with medication.
I've been an insomniac since I was 20. I know it started before then, but that was when I started taking sleeping pills. Happy to see me? You were all alone, weren't you? Come on, let's go for a walk. I know that in order to sleep well, I should be in a completely dark room and only go to bed once I'm ready to fall asleep. But I start watching TV right after dinner, and I don't watch in the living room. I go to my bedroom and take my computer and my phone with me. I know these aren't the best conditions for me to fall asleep, but I can't help myself. These are the moments I savor. My dream would be to give up the pills.
Worldwide, 600 million people suffer from poor sleep. 1 in 5 Americans admits to having taken sleeping pills. In Europe, Spain holds the record, just ahead of France, where 131 million packets of sleeping pills are sold each year. Trouble falling asleep, jolting awake in the middle of the night, stress, anxiety. Insomnia has a number of causes and effects.
Insomnia is defined by strict criteria. Trouble sleeping at least 3 times a week over a period of at least 3 months, with the consequences severe enough to have an impact the following day. Tell me a bit about your trouble sleeping.
If I don't take pills, I don't sleep. I lie awake all night.
Okay. And what's your goal?
I'd like to do without sleeping pills entirely. Getting myself off them would be wonderful.
So what we're going to do is record your sleep cycle to try to understand exactly what happens when you fall asleep and while you're sleeping. Then we can assess, bit by bit, how to help you sleep without or using far fewer sleeping pills. Ready for your polysomnography?
Yes. See you later.
I'll take you to the sleep lab.
This will register your eye movements while you sleep. Depending on the stage of sleep you're in, your eyes move in different ways. This device will record your sleep, and tomorrow morning we'll download the data.
A number of sleep cycles occur in one night. One complete cycle lasts about 90 minutes and contains 4 stages: falling asleep, light sleep, deep sleep, and the REM phase of rapid eye movement, during which we dream. This cycle is repeated 4 to 7 times in the course of a normal night. So it's very important to go to bed when you're tired.
The test showed you have great difficulties falling asleep. It took you nearly 45 minutes. And then you woke up frequently during the first part of the night.
That can't be normal.
No, it's not. It means your sleep is easily disrupted and fragile. This here is the spectral analysis we use to measure your brain waves while you sleep. Here we see very rapid waves, almost as fast as at the start of the night. They show that the brain hasn't completely settled down. In your deep sleep cycle, the waves become much longer and more restorative. But unfortunately, there's not enough of them. That's quite typical for insomniacs.
So I have trouble falling asleep, and when I finally do, I'm still awake.
Yes. While you sleep, you keep having periods of wakefulness, which get longer and longer as the night goes on. It seems that, at least this night, the medication wasn't effective enough.
So that's the end of the first segment. So let me just go back just a moment. Just organizational. So I'm going to share a screen, and we're going to start the discussion with Tanya, who's going to explain a little bit more detail of the sleep cycles. Just quickly, a very technical overview so that we have an understanding what the sleep cycles are. And then we're going to start discussing the different topics in the segment. Tanya, you have the word. Just a moment. I'm going to give you the slide. Here we are.
Okay. Yeah, just to do a small explanation of the sleep. So the sleep, in general, in itself, it's divided into two modes, big modes. That's the REM sleep and the non-REM sleep. The non-REM sleep itself, it's again divided in 3 phases, as already said in the movie. So I called it dozing off, but it's this falling asleep stage. Then we have the light sleep and the deep sleep. And one cycle is these 4 stages: dozing off, light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, and this is about 90 minutes. And this is repeating all over the night. What are the signs of the different stages? So like when you are falling asleep, what is important there? Your breathing slows down, your muscle, they relax and your consciousness decreases. And during this half sleep stage, they say the muscle may show small contractions, and often you have an impression as falling into a vacuum. And the light sleep, as already the name suggests, it's not very deep, but it represents 50% of the total sleep of the night. But at this stage, it's very easy to wake up by a noise, by a light, but you will remember as having slept already. And then the third stage, which is a very important stage, that is the deep sleep. There, the sleeper is really isolated from the outside world. and the brain activity is reduced to a minimum. It's really difficult to wake up during this phase, but it's the time of the cycle when one recovers best of accumulated sleep fatigue or sleep. So the whole organism is at rest and recovering, and the brain emits slow and broad waves, as also seen in the movie. And this accounts for approximately 20 to 25% of the total sleep time. And it has the greatest amplitude at the beginning of the night. Then we have the REM sleep, and this phase is in French called paradoxical. So because at this phase the individual signs shows deep signs of sleep and awakening at one time. So the brain activity is very intense, and our eyes, they show incessant rapid movements. Also, we seem to be paralyzed with completely unresponsive muscles. And this is the phase where we have the longest and most elaborated dreams. And it represents also 20 to 25% of the total sleep during the night, but it occurs to greater amplitude in the morning. And often you have the feeling when you wake up, oh, I was dreaming. Now you can go to the next slide. So how is this working with these cycles? You can imagine it as a staircase. So when you're falling asleep, you go down one staircase. You stay there a little bit, then you go down another staircase, and then you don't go even lower down in the deep sleep. And here, especially in the beginning of the night, you stay a little bit, and then you start going back up the case. And that is when you start the dream phase, the REM phase. And this cycle is now 90 minutes, and it's repeating like 3 to 5 times. They said now 7 times. And as you see on this illustration, the deep sleep is really more in the beginning of the night, and the REM sleep is more occurring till the end of the night. Then what is also important to know about sleep, you can do the next slide, please, José. That is the sleep regulation. So the sleep is regulated by two main things. That is the homeostatic regulation. It's our eternal equilibrium. So the more tired the more you don't sleep, you get the more and more tired. And then the propensity to fall asleep increases with the sleep deprivation and decreases when after the occurrence of a sleep period. And then, which is very important, this is the circadian, sorry about my English, circadian regulation. So this is coming from the Latin circa, which is meaning nearly, and yes is day. And this is our central clock. So the sleep pressure is there for the greatest between 1 and 5 a.m. and also at 2 and 4 p.m. And with this circadian regulation, the light is the main synchronizer, and the absence triggers the secretion of melatonin, the hormone that makes us fall asleep. And this, not only the sleep is under this circadian regulation, but a lot of body functions. And which I didn't know also when I was the manager of the childcare center, this is like inherited. So you are born with a rhythm, and this is different for every individual person, and it changes. It changes from the birth till the end of life. So you have like we say very balanced people. Their rhythm can be exactly 24 hours, but it's very, very rare. Then you have the late to bed, that the owls. Their rhythm is more than 24 hours, and they fall asleep. They tend to go into bed very late and wake up very grumpy in the morning. And the early to rise is the lark, so their rhythm is less than 24 hours, and it's fewer people in this category.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much for this technical explanation. I think we have a good understanding. I would like to launch the discussion with certain things that were said. First, you heard, I can help myself. So we know how stress and anxiety is an important factor, but we also heard from the woman, I can help myself. I take the computer, the screen, the phone with me, knowing that it's not the right thing to do. So in your opinions, what are your experiences with problems related to stress, anxiety, but also behavioral problems that lead to people not following actually the advice that experts actually like you give them. Who wants to take the word on that? Yes, Dominique?
Can I share? Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the whole issue we have, whether we want to change our sleep or whether we want to exercise more or whether we want to change the way we eat. We all know the theory of what we should be doing, and we can receive thousands of advice from thousands of different experts, and they're often all very good advice. But as to how you then apply them depends on when you're ready as an individual. If you have enough energy to do that change as well inside yourself, or enough mind space to do that, and if it really does make sense for you. And people who are making those changes are often people that have unfortunately suffered enough with that issue and are suddenly able to say, okay, I'm gonna take the responsibility for my health and make a change. Yeah. And that's why I think that as a sophrologist, I don't think we can force people into making changes. And as much as we all want people to apply the advice we give, I think there's a huge limitation in doing that. As a sophrologist, I see that when you close your eyes and you're guided into a relaxation and a way to connect with yourself through the breath and through listening to your body, that's how I feel people start to notice their body. They start to be able to notice their stress that they have accumulated inside themselves in a very practical way, and feeling it, and it becomes a reality for them that they are able to suddenly fall asleep because they can use their breath, they can concentrate, that they can learn to let go of tension and see the change happening because they are practicing those 5 minutes a day. And
Dominique,
because
Dominique,
yeah.
allow me to interrupt you, but are they, or in your own experience or anybody else's experience, what is like one piece of advice when you're dealing with stress? So you go through your workday and then you deal with your family or other issues at home. What is like one or two very simple advice that you can give us that can lead you into a good night of sleep?
Maybe I can.
Yes.
I think the first huge misconception is that sleeping is natural, normal, because if you don't do this, well, you die. So it should be easy. And when we are struggling with sleeping or falling asleep, we tend to look for other easy solutions like watching TV, sleeping pills, and so on. The problem is stress is increasing the difficulty to sleep and the other way around. So it requires commitment, I would say even tests. There is a solution for everyone, but maybe not the same. There is no magical solution because otherwise we wouldn't be here to talk about it. So yes, it's a trial and error way journey, and we really have to commit in our sleep. That would be the first advice I would give people.
Okay, but what exactly does commitment look like? You say, okay, you might want to get tested from doctors, but that's already like a heavy, I don't want to say intervention, but it's like a serious effort. But before getting to the doctor and to the test lab, there's plenty of books and experts who have experience. Isn't there like one or two or three advices that you can give that we might try for ourselves already to deal
For
with
example,
stress and anxiety?
As the lady said, I can't help myself. I'm not sure it's like compulsion. It's just that I want to do it, so I'm going to do it. Commitment starts by there. I mean, okay, you want to do it, but you know it's wrong. And she said it. I know it's not helping. So try to organize your night with something that helps first. And when you see the positive aspects, it will reinforce the feeling that you have to do another way.
So how do you go about, if anybody else wants to add to it?
I think it's important to understand why this person has decided to go for the screen. And I think we can see in the film that she has had a lot of stress in her life, and that at some point she's offered a way to explore what leads to those way of trying to escape the pain of life, you know, of emotions that we experience throughout the day, of frustration, or everything that we can encounter throughout a day that is actually difficult to then digest. Yeah. And I think she can't help doing something else because that's her best way of coping in this moment. So I think acknowledging that situation first with her, I think is such an important thing to do, and letting slowly people find their own way and taking one mini steps that works for them. That's not like a huge change, because it's hard to do big changes. It's baby steps, and it can go from taking a 2-minute exercise of breathing 3 times a day to regulate your nervous system, to deciding to reduce sugar in your daily life, or to say every day I'm going to commit to seeing the light outside first thing in the morning, making sure I tell my body this is now the day, and I'm using light to synchronize my body, for example. Yeah.
Okay.
And
perfect. That's a few pieces of advice that we can take home and try to implement them. Philip, you wanted to say something too?
I think it is, as Chloe and Dominique said, either you suffer a lot and then you are ready for a big commitment and a big change, or you should start with small steps. And I think as sleep is a pretty natural thing, maybe you should start just with walks in nature and come in touch again with something natural. And another technique I've learned, and which was very effective, is that you just lie down and you go mentally your day backwards. It's a pretty easy technique. Everybody can do it. And I always tell my patients, I'm pretty sure you will fall asleep before you come to the first moment of your day. And it's something a lot of people say, yeah, it's efficient.
Perfect. Thank you. I would like to discuss a little bit the statistics and to put it in a Luxembourg context. So we heard a few numbers, like Spain is #1 consumer of sleeping pills in Europe, and then France. We have about 6 million people. 6 million people is more or less 10% of the French population popping pills to sleep. And worldwide, we have about 600 million people suffering from sleep deprivation. Regarding Luxembourg, the statistics that I found is that it's only one from 2011. 7% of people in Luxembourg consume hypnotic medicine. It's called hypnotic. That's the term that was used in the article. Actually, it's the government website. And more or less 20 to 30 people, 20% to 30% of Luxembourgish population suffer from insomnia. And from 2019 to 2020, there's been an increase about 15% in consumption of the pills here in Luxembourg. So it is a serious problem also here in Luxembourg. In your contact with your customers or clients or patients, how big a problem do you see sleep to be? Is it a serious problem in your experience as well? Or are other factors more important that lead to sleep? How big the problem do you see it in your experiences?
I feel it's a big problem because the whole body is affected by sleep deprivation, and so if you don't sleep enough, then you can have problems elsewhere in your body, be it on the organs or be it headaches or tensions everywhere in the body. I come across a lot of patients with that in my job, and I also feel that a lot of patients find it already almost normal not to be able to sleep easily, to fall asleep easily, and to have a good sleep. They sometimes take pills and they don't mention it because it already seems normal to them, which is a bit scary. As in the film, it's really shown that sleep is the most regenerative thing you can do in the world to heal your body yourself. I mean,
thank you, Philip. Anybody else wants to chime in regarding your experiences?
Maybe I can. First, from the point of view of the industry I'm working in, which is training, so not coaching or anything, but it's still the first asked training when you ask people in companies about personal development trainings. So it's really a huge need. And maybe from another point of view, during the lockdown in Luxembourg, we launched a study. And we asked people also about sleep, and a lot of people reported really negative impacts on the amount of sleeping hours and also on the quality of their sleep. That is waking up multiple times during the night or too early in the morning and not being able to go back to sleep, or even the feeling of being exhausted as soon as waking up. So I don't really know about before, just because they asked it as a training, but right now, after the pandemic, I think it will be a huge problem if it wasn't even before.
Thank you, Chloe. Anybody else?
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
I'm not working in that profession, but where I work with the parents in that age, especially from 0 to 5, the children don't sleep, so the parents don't sleep. And when you hear all about this, you just admire, or you just sometimes wonder how you deal the first times, the first years when you have children. Nobody recalls it. Also now I'm really good, and I think it's also a good thing, because otherwise you would not have more than one child. But it's really, I don't know why nature did this, but this deprivation of sleep in the beginning of years, when you have to have also working and not sleeping and taking care of a child, it's really a big issue in the beginning of the years, that you have really a total deregulated sleep. And looking back, sometimes I just, I always say to the people, I admire them, and sleep during the day, take every sleep you can, because it's not sleep deprivation. It was used as a torture, a folter method. How is the word in
torture method? Yeah.
A torture method. So actually, we are a little bit tortured when we become parents. So in the field that I'm working, it's really a big issue, but always related to parenthood.
Perfect. Thank you, Tanya.
Just one more small thing. When you slept well before, and when after that you are a parent, soon when your children are even away or bigger, you never find back again to that perfect sleep you had before. It's really difficult, I guess.
Okay. Thank you. We'll talk about the parents' problem sleeping towards the end, the last segment. We'll go in more detail about that. Dominique, last minute, one more minute before we go.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said. I definitely see it in the corporate world, that when you offer different theme to them, they often pick up the sleep one, yeah. And also, you know, in my experience of 20 years as a osteopath and then as a sophrologist, the reason of consultation is often sleep, because that's the thing people can start to really notice. And although it hides a lot of stuff that you discover along the way with them, that's often when they suddenly say, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm gonna ask help for my sleep. And that's the first part in the journey of self-discovery and transforming the way you feel and dealing with the real problem that leads you to having a sleep problem. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. One theme that we haven't discussed yet is the danger or the impact of the screens. But we'll move on to the second segment, because I think the screens and the dangers of the different phone screens, TV screens, and laptop screens, it's going to be a topic that's going to be of interest later on. I'll pick up on that. Let me just share the screen and we'll go to the second segment, if you don't mind. So the second segment is going to be about nutrition and exercise. So here we go.
The experiment is being carried out on several subjects under different conditions. As Claudia settles into her room, Eve van Kouda and Aaron Hanlon analyzed the results of one of their first participants who arrived a week earlier.
So this subject was their first subject, and he was randomized to the extended overnight fast. And his biggest meal always in the evening.
Okay.
And fairly late, starting at 8. For an American, that's late. And day after day, this is the mean of 5 days. You cannot see where the overnight fast is. It looks like his glucose levels are all over the place across the 24-hour cycle. And then you can see that he's definitely pre-diabetes.
Yeah.
The lower curve is our intervention, and there we can really see that we change the glucose levels to a clear low overnight fast, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So I'm really excited.
As a result, the patient's quality of sleep has also improved markedly.
The brain is a glucose guzzler. It needs glucose, it's its main fuel, and it uses more glucose than any other organ. As soon as you fall asleep, your brain is not using as much. So the metabolism is slowed down drastically. So what happens when you eat very late, instead of having the glucose go down in 3 hours, it takes 5 hours, 6 hours. So most of the night, now you have high glucose levels. The signal to the brain is that we are awake. Sleeping over high glucose levels is going to deteriorate sleep quality.
This study points to a terrible vicious cycle. The more often we eat at the wrong times, the less we sleep, and the less we sleep, the hungrier we become. How can our brains rest if our food intake is so frequent and so heavy that it simulates us being permanently awake? Clearly, our bodies have been unable to adapt to our modern-day lifestyle. Too many changes in the space of just a century deeply affected our circadian rhythm. Similarly, our bodies have not been able to grow accustomed to the increasingly sedentary nature of our lives. At the University of Caen, Professor Damien Daven conducts research on biological rhythms. He's looking to determine the impact of physical activity on the quality of nighttime sleep.
The Homo sapiens are designed to move, to exert themselves. Up until the 20th century, burning 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day was nothing unusual. This high energy turnover was enough to keep people in good health. We want to see if isolated physical activity at a specific time during the day has immediate consequences that night. Physical activity triggers the secretion of waking hormones, which need to be eliminated in order to sleep well. And the more intensive the physical activity, a squash match, for example, that's very demanding and requires a lot of energy, the harder it is to sleep afterwards. Before we can get a good night's sleep, we need to release pressure and return our temperatures to normal. We started asking ourselves, what type of physical activity could improve sleep? And we concluded that it was aerobic exercise.
Aerobic exercise is a form of endurance training. While performing it, muscles draw oxygen from cells, unlike during quicker, more high-intensity exercises. Once the physical activity is done, Professor Daven analyzes the subject's sleep.
We're looking to see if his sleep is more intense, his deep sleep in particular. Right now, he's still awake, with considerable muscular activity, but he's falling asleep quite quickly. These are what we call spindles. They occur as we fall asleep. The optimal time for physical activity is in the late afternoon. Then, its effect on our sleep is ideal.
Endurance sports carried out in the late afternoon help realign our internal clock, making it much easier to fall asleep at night and improving the quality of deep sleep. These days, the combination of abundant artificial light, a poor diet, and the lack of exercise are the root causes of sleeplessness.
Perfect. Any comments so far on the segment that we saw? Who wants to go first? So we saw that nutrition is important, very important. That's something new that I learned. I wasn't aware of the impact of eating late, which begs the question, in different cultures, there's a tendency either to eat early, around 6 o'clock, and in other countries, it's more like late, around 8 o'clock in the evening. It would be interesting to see if there's better sleep in one or the other. Anybody has a comment about nutrition? We don't have any professional nutritionists with us tonight, but we will be based on our personal experiences or personal opinions, just to make sure that people understand that we don't have that expertise with us today. How important is nutrition, in your opinion, in your life, or also in the life of the people that you come in contact with who have issues with sleeping?
Say something about it. But I'm not a nutrition expert, that's for sure, but just from my personal expertise, you know, also now the restaurants are again open, and the evening where you go out and eat in a restaurant, and so that is often the night that you sleep worse than all the other nights. So I think when you eat regularly and also regularly, it's really good to have also this routine, this ritual, and I think 2 hours before you go to sleep, so that the main digestion is done, is really good thing. Everything is explained is like really like a vicious circle. And the same, just a little quick, is also for children. Sometimes children, they don't sleep well because they just have too much food at night, or too heavy bottle, or too many things together. And another thing, my personal experience, now I share a secret with you, but I tried since 2 months this fasting, like 16 to 8 hours, and I have to report now since April that my sleep is really going better, that I stopped really at a certain time eating and start again the other day. And my personal experience is this has very good effects on my body. That is the only thing from my personal view that I can share now with you.
So anybody else who wants to chime in?
It might be me. It's like Tanya. I'm not an expert in nutrition or anything, but I think it just shows how important it is to take care of ourselves during the day while we are not asleep, to sleep better. This is the only rule for me. It's not because sleep is a natural thing that we just have to let nature do its thing. It's really important to take care of ourselves, and we were talking about commitment before. It's also that committing to a healthy diet and watching the hours in which we are eating. It's really, really important.
Thank you. The important thing that I got from this segment is how actually the food relates to how your brain works. So if you eat late, there's a digestion going on, and then before going to sleep, you should be careful that your glucose levels have time to go down. So when Tanya was saying you should not eat or eat at the latest 2 or 3 hours before going to sleep, and in the segment, it shows also that if you eat late and then go to sleep, it actually takes much longer for your glucose levels to go down. And the impact that that has is that it signals the brain, or it signals like to your system that you're still awake. And so the more you eat at the wrong times, there's a signal sent to your brain that it's still, your body is still awake. And then you sleep less. And by sleeping less, you're actually more stressed throughout the day. And the impact is frustration eating. You eat to actually compensate the stress. So that leads also to lifestyle diseases, diabetes that was mentioned in the segment. Does anybody have experience with fasting, like Tanya said, which is a very hot topic right now around the world, and it's gotten here to Europe as well. It's do you have any experience with fasting at all, besides Tanya?
Actually, I do, but I did it more because I'm a person who can't really eat in the morning. But yeah, I do.
And how?
Don't know if it's helping.
What is your experience then, in a few words?
Well, I do a lot of things to sleep better, so I wouldn't say it changed my life, but these are the baby steps Dominique talked about to be part of nice habits. I'm quite happy with fasting. Actually, it's not bothering me, I would say.
Okay. Anybody else wants to chime in?
I think it's food, but it's also fluids, yeah, because if you're dehydrated, you get agitated, and I think a lot of people don't really are not thirsty anymore because they're just so absorbed in their work, and their stress level is so high that the body doesn't ask for water, or if it asks for water, people don't listen because they don't have the time and they don't connect to their body. So I would say, what I advise through my sleep courses, it's really to start to make sure you eat enough protein from the morning. By protein, and I mean meat or lentil or quinoa or whatever. If you're vegetarian or if you like meat, it doesn't really matter. You have to find sources of protein that you eat at every meal throughout the day, so that your sugar level is much more stable, yeah. And that's why protein can be so useful, to start to regulate that sugar level, so that you don't end up your day craving for that huge pasta bowl because you're just so hungry and you're a bit lacking sugar in your system, yeah. So I think these are simple steps, like instead of trying to change everything in your diet, you could start to drink more and include some protein at each meal. And then the next step could be, once you have a bit more energy and you're a bit more in the zone, starting to look for the timing and then change the way you eat and create that time to eat as well. Because yesterday I was at the restaurant for the first time since many months, and I could see we were in a really nice restaurant, and there was this guy sitting next to us on his own, unfortunately, and he was watching his iPad in a really cool restaurant with his headphone on, and he spent the whole evening eating all sorts of things and watching his iPad. And I told myself, yeah, we are in a weird society now, yeah, like we we can't even stop watching screen whilst we eat, yeah, even in a really nice restaurant, yeah. So yeah, that was really interesting. I told myself, I wonder how is he gonna sleep tonight, because he can't even feel how full maybe he is now from having all this food, because his attention is somewhere else, yeah.
Did you give him your business card?
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, everybody do their best, and I'm not here to judge people, but that basically raised the question, because that's exactly what we shouldn't do, really, and try to be a bit more mindful about this time where we take the time to eat, even if it's 20 minutes, but just being with the food, yeah, and trying to enjoy our food, yeah.
The other topic that came up besides nutrition and how important nutrition is the topic of exercise. And the interesting lesson that I've learned here since they have been studying is that the best time to exercise is in the late afternoon. So when do you practice? When do you do your exercises? Were you aware of that fact, or do you practice in the morning, or do you have physical activity in the afternoon, in the evening? What is your experience related to exercise and its importance?
I really want to add something in here because this is not entirely true, to be honest. It depends on something which is called a chronotype. It means what kind of sleeper you are. If you are more a morning person or an evening person, and it's you really have a different clock according to your chronotype. Most of people have a middle chronotype, let's say, and this is why they say that the best time to exercise is in the late afternoon, but it's not entirely true for everyone, so we should take care, pay attention about that, because if you are really you are a person who wakes up very early in the morning, maybe the best time would be at noon, for example. So everything is more at the left, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. And there are tests, scientific tests on internet to determine your chronotype if you want to try it.
Do you have time to pull them up and share them in the chat?
Yes, I have it. I can find it.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be really cool, because that's a new term that I've learned now through you, the chronotype. I would be eager to know what chronotype I am.
Yeah, funny thing, the chronotype is very specific, for example, for teenagers, and this is why they wake up in the afternoon. So every parent is saying, "What are you doing? You should wake up in the morning. You have the whole day in front of you." But it's actually normal.
Okay.
Yes, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you, Chloe. Anybody else who wants to express his or her opinion about exercise and the importance of exercise? Not only the time, but how important exercise in combination with nutrition is to a good sleep.
Well, I feel exercise is very important to stress out. I mean, to release the stress and to release the accumulated tensions during the day, especially when we have a job which is more mental or related to offices and computers. It's good to have physical exercise, because I think one of the main problems of sleeping is the mind, is the thoughts, is that we cannot calm down because the thoughts are running in the mind, and it's because we use the brain too much just for thinking and maybe not for moving. So moving is a good way to harmonize again the thoughts with the body, and with this equilibrium we talked about, maybe homeostasis, there's a better field, a better atmosphere for sleep. So I really feel that moving and yeah, maybe a run or something is really helping after the workday to calm down. But it can be also in the morning. Like when you look at it from a yogic point of view, the morning is a pretty good time as well to do exercise.
Perfect. Thank you, Philip. I'm going to move on to the next segment because we're running a little bit short on time. So let me just pull up the next segment. The next segment is going to be about insomnia again, depression, and alternative treatments. And if we have a chance also to talk about Alzheimer diseases and the cerebral spinal fluids. So let me just pull it up very quickly. Just a moment. Just have to find the right screen with the right button. And here we go.
I wake up at night and wander around. I can't sleep at all.
My insomnia manifests itself in nightly waking states I just can't get a handle on. When I was young, I slept normally. Then I had my fourth child who suffers from Down syndrome. They're 53 now, but I'm still constantly worried.
Insomnia is always caused by a sense of insecurity. Why does this person feel unsafe? Why is she afraid to sleep? What has kept her vigilant all these years? That's what we need to understand. Could illness or anguish be causing it?
I know when my trouble sleeping started.
When was that?
We can talk about that here. I was very ill. I didn't think I could talk about that here.
Wouldn't illness be a good reason to feel uncertain?
Well, yes.
The most common cause of sleep disorders is depression, and treating depression with sleeping pills just worsens the depression.
This is what it looks like when you get clean water for the first time. It's a celebration full of hope and pure joy.
At the sleep center of his hospital in Paris, Professor Léger prescribes Natalie 2 different kinds of treatment. She'll start with mindfulness exercises, which should help with the drug withdrawal.
Our goal is for you to get a better sense of your current feelings, thoughts, and experiences, so you struggle against them less.
I understand.
Then let's stand up. Keep your eyes open and slowly raise your arm. Can you feel the position of your arm?
Yes.
Now lower it and raise the other arm. Do you feel it? Now lower it, and this time try raising your arm only in your imagination.
Okay.
Retrace this posture with your eyes closed. Can you feel your arm moving, even though you're not really lifting it?
A bit, yes.
You're using your sensory imagination. You're imagining a movement of your body.
Mindfulness meditation involves focusing on the present without letting other thoughts distract you.
I recommend you keep practicing. This training helps us work on ourselves. It helps us to accept our thoughts and feelings, which in your case will lead to a better night's sleep.
Professor Léger also prescribes light therapy. These sessions primarily use blue light because this color amplifies the positive effects of natural light and increases alertness during the daytime. Phototherapy also regulates the biological clock and helps combat depression.
The principle of phototherapy is to help to resynchronize your biological clock, your wake-sleep rhythm. You can start pedaling.
If I'd known, I'd have worn trainers.
Not to worry, you can bring them next time. Pedal at your own rhythm. That's it. It isn't a marathon or the Tour de France. Look at the wall. Look at the blue light. This is an alternative to medication. Enjoy your session.
Thanks. See you later.
During the day, exposure to natural light combined with physical exercise improves the quality of our nights. So our daytime activity clearly influences how we sleep.
I believe there are just 2 clinics in France with resynchronization rooms like this. One in Strasbourg, and this here in Paris. While this treatment isn't covered by public health insurance, it's very effective for a whole range of patients.
Poor sleep can even be a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, as Professor Maiken Nedergaard has discovered.
The brain is so stressed out during normal wake time that it cannot do its normal housekeeping. And we speculated that this might be the biological foundation for sleep. Nobody had really looked in the brain on how does the brain get rid of waste product. So we were starting to wonder, would glial cell be involved in that?
Glial cells nourish our neurons, supplying them with oxygen and nutrients. However, thanks to Maiken Niedergaard's discoveries, we now know another major purpose these cells serve. In the brain, the arteries are surrounded by space in which cerebrospinal fluid circulates freely. When we fall into a deep sleep, glial cells open canals which release this fluid. It washes over the neurons, clearing away the waste that's collected there during our waking hours. So these cells are key to brain cleansing.
And once it's transported out of the brain here, it's dumped back into the blood circulation, and you can regard the liver as our professional recycling plant.
Perfect. Just a moment, stopping to share it. So a lot of interesting insights that I gained here. The first one is the purpose of sleep. From this segment, we know actually now that the purpose of sleep, or one of the purposes of sleep, is to clean the waste products that have accumulated in our brain throughout the day. And if you don't have a good sleep, actually this brain waste accumulates. Who knew about this? I didn't know about this at all before this documentary. Who came across this very important insight before? Okay, so that was really, I think it's still like very modern research, and they're still figuring that a lot of things are ongoing. The interesting topic is the different mindfulness exercises actually that you see in the clinics. So we always have this dichotomy between modern medicine and more ancient meditation or mindfulness techniques like yoga, meditation, and so forth. And here we see a blending or a use of the mindfulness techniques, meditation in one example. What is, I think in a lot of your experience, you practice or you also teach these mindfulness exercises. What can you tell us about all these mindfulness exercises and the impact that they have on the people that you come across or in your life?
So maybe I go ahead, yeah. As a sophrologist, so we are a meditative practice. I think, I mean, in my opinion, these practices are not only life-changing on many aspects for sleep, but they are necessary these days. You know, I don't think there are any more practices that we can ignore, or that you know, you see the shifts in companies, for example, like even 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, companies were like, you know, yeah, mindfulness, yes, it's a bit for people who are a bit woohoo, yeah. And now these techniques are really becoming so mainstream, and science back them up to a certain extent, yeah. There's still a lot of unknown, and but I think we know that they influence the brain. We know that they balance the nervous system. We know that breathing has an impact on being able to calm your nervous system and to let go of to help you restore your energy. So, you know, I think they are dealing with the root cause of most of sleep problems in modern life. Most of us are running around with too much stress, too much stuff on our minds, lots of fears, lots of anxiety, which are part of the human experience, but are just enhanced by the fact that we have all these screens and so many information we have access these days through the press, through media, and through the interconnectivity of through our friends and all this instant gratification society we live in. And therefore, if suddenly our sleep doesn't work, we consider that this is dysfunctioning a little bit like our app, our latest app, and we want to fix it. And I think these techniques are allowing us to slow down and to consider all of our life from a different perspective, and just to slow the level of stress down first before we can do this journey towards more awareness. Yeah, and I think that's the right way in approaching a sleep problem, alongside advices and what we've talked about, the light, the nutrition. And
so you talked about meditation, breathing. Anybody else who wants to chime in, other techniques that you come across that you can recommend? We're talking about mindfulness now. So for example, yoga. Philip, do you want to say something about yoga? I know you're a yoga teacher.
I think it joins what Dominique said, and what I said before is bringing the mind and the body together again. And in one of the exercises in the movie, it was really this: lift your arm and feel you lift your arm. Just don't do anything else. Don't think about what you have to buy. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about the past. Just be in one very simple movement. And I mean, that's what yoga is also about. It's becoming, what Dominique said, aware of journey of awareness. It's being aware of the present, and in the present, when there are no thoughts, then sleep will just happen very naturally. So yoga is a technique that helps the whole system to calm down. It has a great effect on all the how do you say, the endorphin system with the hormones, actually, to calm down the hormones, because that is one of the major problems, I think, also concerning sleep. For example, the melatonin hormone is very important to induce sleep, and some of the yoga postures help to regenerate the gland, the pineal gland, that is secreting that hormone, for example. And then, of course, the whole meditative aspect is a major aspect in yoga.
Does everybody agree that meditation and breathing exercises, maybe even yoga, do we have a consensus that these are very important and helpful techniques, not only for sleep, but also for our mental well-being? Do we all agree on that, or do you have other opinions or other ideas?
I completely agree on that. And if there is an effective sleeping pill, this is the one, I would say, because as Philip said, it's bringing the mind and the body together, which the sleeping pill is not doing, because they completely break the rituals and the conditioning linked to falling asleep. This is what they're trying to do with the physical exercise and the lights. They're telling the body, okay, it's daytime, so you have to exercise, and then at nighttime you sleep. Yeah. So it's a true vicious cycle, because we will have to build these good habits back and stick with it. It takes time, during which it might be very difficult to sleep. So putting an activity like meditation, yoga, even visualization, which is, I think, a kind of meditation, just before you sleep, it helps to build back a ritual linked to sleep. They even, I think, show a small device in the video. There are a lot of devices like that. I even have one. And there are a lot of activities to do. They're all working, and they're all based on this principle to bring together the mind and the body. I completely agree. And it's very effective in most cases.
Thank you. We're running short on time, so we have to move on. But one thing that I wanted to add here that was said during the segment is that one of the most common causes for insomnia is actually depression. And depression is linked not only to stress or to the too much activity or too much emotional activity that we are facing in our daily lives that we cannot get a hand on. But he talked about insecurity as an important factor. When you feel insecurity in your life, there's like a lot of problems coming out of that insecurity. For example, illness can be a source of insecurity, anguish, and depression is one of them as well. And we know how important depression has become, not important, but how pervasive it has become in our societies. And this whole topic of mental health has also become a very hot topic in the past year during the pandemic. We have to move on to the next segment just because we're running out of time. So I'm going to just share this last two videos, very short. So let me just share the screen. And I apologize for the ads that pop up, but yeah, I don't have YouTube Premium. So here we go for the first.
Losing sleep over your child's sleep? You're not alone. The reality is that sleep problems in children are common, and even more common in kids with autism, developmental disabilities, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. As a parent, you know that sleep problems can affect the whole family, creating stress and lost sleep for parents too. What are some common sleep complaints? Crying at bedtime or refusing to go to bed unless a parent stays with them. Moving to their parents' bed during the night. Sleeping in car seats, strollers, and basically anywhere but their own bed. Here's the good news. Many sleep problems can be improved, if not completely resolved, with simple changes to the bedtime routine and environment. Sleep hygiene means good habits that promote sleep. Here are our top tips for good sleep hygiene. Make sure bedtime and morning wake-up is around the same time each day, including weekends. Keep bedrooms cool, comfortable, and dark. Here's a tip. If you can read a book, the room is too bright. Beds are for sleeping, not playing or watching TV or playing on tablets or devices. No drinks or food with caffeine in the late afternoon or evening. No big meals right before bed. Try relaxing activities in the evening to wind down. A warm bath or reading are good bets. Keep the bedtime routine activities in the same order every night so it's predictable. Make sure it's enjoyable and short. Here's the big one. Keep screens out of the bedroom. There is research saying that devices in the evening make it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. Remember, talk to your child's family doctor if you have any concerns about your child's sleep. Some medical conditions cause sleep disturbances, and medications can interfere with sleep too. So it's very important to speak with your child's doctor about these concerns. If the sleep hygiene changes aren't improving their sleep, ask about having a sleep behavior assessment.
So I'm going to be sharing the last video. For the people who are not participating, but who are watching this docu debate, you can already send us your questions in the chat function. So don't hesitate, send the questions that you have, because after this, we'll have a short question and answer. Just a moment.
All right, girls, time to go.
Just a moment.
Kate Robson has 2 daughters in school and knows adjusting their sleep schedules takes some effort.
Well, we kind of started the week before back to school because this summer we really were pretty loosey-goosey about things and the kids went to bed a bit later.
The back to school time is definitely a big issue with sleep schedules that have adjusted.
Leslie Barrera is a behavioral therapist and says 20 to 30% of children will have sleep problems, but there are some easy steps parents can take to get their kids back into a good sleep routine.
Reduce or eliminate screen time at least 2 to 3 hours before the actual bedtime. So that includes TV, video games, playing or working on the computer, tablets, smartphones.
Ensure they get enough physical activity during the day. And while a snack is okay before bedtime, avoid heavy meals or caffeine. She says the sleep environment is also key.
We want to make sure that it's dark enough, the temperature is comfortable, and it's quiet enough.
Barrera says it's also important to keep a consistent routine throughout the week, including the weekends.
That's a tough one because a lot of us like to sleep in on the weekends, but that might be throwing off the schedule.
Research has found these behavioral approaches are the most effective way of resolving sleep problems in children. So how much sleep do kids need? It changes over time, but Barrera says younger kids need 11 to 13 hours per night, and by age 10, about 10 hours of sleep per night is recommended. Watch for signs of sleep deprivation, including if your child is hyperactive, irritable, inattentive, takes naps throughout the day, or has a hard time waking up. If sleep problems persist, or you notice your child consistently kicks their legs or catches their breath during sleep, make sure to check in with your family doctor to rule out other possible health issues.
Alice in Wonderland.
Thankfully, Kate's daughters are getting back into the school bedtime routine thanks to consistent and calming activities.
Sitting down and reading and singing and a lot of cuddling, I think that helps them make the transition. And I feel it myself too. I feel like I'm calming down and slowing down, which I think is really important.
With Sunnyview, I'm Monica Mattis.
Either the well was very deep or she fell very slowly.
So I don't have much experience with children because I don't have any. So I will have to rely on your expertise. How possible is it to have children and in the first months or the first 6 months or first year, is it even possible to have good sleep? Or is it mission impossible? What do you think?
That is a good question. So also it is possible because it's like also Chloe said already, it's also chronotypes for babies, and there are babies and children who are sleeping well right from the beginning, who really fall into a good rhythm where the adults coexist. But most of the time it's not the case. So my advice really for the parents always is really to look for help as they can get from the grandparents, from the neighbors, from everywhere they are around, and sleep, especially with the first child, sleep when the child is also sleeping, and not do households and homework, because you need to be in a good shape to stay all the day with your child. So it's really not, but I think your body is also in kind of prepared. You just do it. And the explanation of the cycles also explain that sometimes you wake up during the night when your baby cries and you are feeling okay. And sometimes you are feeling really like shit. And that is depending on which cycle you are into it. If you are really in the deep sleep phase and you are waking up. One remedy, I'm not favoring one method, because there is co-sleeping, family bed, sleeping in the children's room. There are many different options, but every family has to find their correct situation, which is correct in their family, for the father and for the mother. And there are really many different possibilities, and there's really no right or wrong. But it's a fact, when the child sleeps with the mom in the bed or in a baby bed, their rhythms are more on the same level, because the breathing and the cycles, they adapt to each other. So and you don't wake up as badly as when you have to go in the child room to nurse it and to give to breastfeed.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Any other opinions about the question? Is it possible to, how was your experience actually when you were having children, and your sleep quality or sleep hygiene?
For me, I think it's about working on expectation. because I think we were talking earlier about this society where everything has to work fast and be efficient. And I think as a parent, I would strongly invite people who are gonna be parents to start to change the expectation about what is it gonna be possible to do in the next 2-3 years, yeah? And that we have to understand that welcoming a little human being in the world will require a change in expectation, a change of behavior, a change of rhythm, and that you can't expect people to work at the same pace and the same quality if they are sleep deprived. Yeah, so I think if parents are able to implement their days in a different way, and I know it's not always possible depending on which job you do and your situation, but to try to implement your life with these breaks, with these 10 minutes of sophrology, with trying to look after what you eat, and bringing the child to the grandmother once in a while so you can have an afternoon of rest. And I think it's about the expectation that's often is an issue. And then in my experience, I think for me, as long as I was breastfeeding until 9 months, basically my child was always with me. And we were synchronizing quite lovely. I mean, I wasn't that tired. And I think it was a hormonal thing that I think the body of the mom and the child are so cleverly made that if you manage to respect a little bit those rhythm and try to bring those rhythm together, something quite magical happens. And I wasn't that tired. I was just following my child's rhythm. But then as soon as I stopped breastfeeding and trying to go back to a more normal life, that's how the tiredness really started to kick in for me. And I realized that my body was struggling to do the same thing that I was doing 3 weeks earlier when I was breastfeeding. So that's really also interesting, to notice that, nature gives you everything to be able to deal with that. And then there's fathers, because we speak a lot about mothers, but fathers, they don't breastfeed, and they are taken into this crazy journey as well, So I think it's putting in place. For example, we were taking turns, and for the last maybe until Elliot was even 4 years old, I think there was lots of nights where Fred slept in the room next door, and I because we were at least one of us will have a full night's sleep and be ready for work, and then we were exchanging the next night. And it's a bit of a survival time where you have to, but nobody forces you to have kids on the other hand. And if you decide to go ahead and have children, then I think it's the sort of compromise that you will have to do and change your life to be able to attend this experience.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. Any other opinions or things that you'd like to share? I didn't receive any questions from the public. So Philip, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think just what Dominique said about sleeping in another room. I remember, like, for the first child, I wanted to do everything and help everything and be present every second, and I was so exhausted. And with the second, right after 5 days, I said, I sleep in another room. Once in a while. And I mean, if you're breastfeeding, I cannot, that's what the thing the man cannot do. And I think that what really helps me. And I think what's interesting is also that you really have to give the child a clear understanding of what is your idea. It cannot be like, you really have to be clear with yourself, I think, and then the child feels that and gets the message.
Yeah.
But if there's agitation in yourself, the child immediately, like, it's so interesting. It's even more with mothers, but I feel it's also with the father, that when there's agitation in the house, in your own mind, the child immediately gets it, and the sleep is kaput. It's so that's the main point I would work on, is on yourself, actually. Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Can I say something still about it? I just wanted to see, when you saw these little documentaries, what they suggest for the children. The day routine, not eating, no screen, was actually the same as they say for adults, but it already starts at that age. But I have also a really bad point of the situation in the society we live. I have a lot of my evenings, and I remember in one childcare center there were, I think, 11 parents, and each other has a different problems. And also I have my little recommendations, but then I said, Mom, yeah, but what can we do? We are both working. The children we have to take out of bed to go to the crèche, the biggest one to the maison relais, then they go to school, they come home late at night, they have to serve dinner, do homework. So already starting at a child age, often the sleep, they don't have enough sleep. So they are taking out of the sleep, they're going later to bed, because also the parents want to share life. So it's really also how our life is, that this is already starting at young age, all these sleeping problems and sleeping disorders.
Sleep hygiene is very important at an early age and also at a later age. I think sleep hygiene and the sleep routine is important anytime throughout our life. I would like to conclude by asking you, each one of you, for like a last piece of advice based on your experience. And maybe it can be, again, what you just said during the presentation, but I would like to go through each of you and give you the chance in 1 or 2 sentences, like your last advice for the people out there to have a better sleep. Who wants to go first? Chloe?
Yes, maybe as we just talked about the children, I think maybe my last advice would be we have a lot to learn from what we are doing with them. Building rituals, reading stories, lights off, showing them what to do during the day, exercise, and so on. And somehow we leave that at some age. So I think, yeah, we have a lot to learn of the commitment we have for children and that we don't have with us. It's about self-love, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice. Very good. Thank you. Who wants to go next? Dominique?
Yeah, I think we all have the capacity, unless we have a medical issue or like a serious disease, yeah? But I think we all have the resource to sleep inside us, and it's given by nature. And I think by learning to connect in simple ways, where you close your eyes and you listen to your body and you listen to your breath and you learn to visualize, and you are able to go back to that place inside you where you can unlock these potential inside you. And I don't think, and for me, that's a powerful first step to then have the energy and the clarity to know what are the next steps you want to implement in your life, because they need to feel right, yeah? And they need to feel right for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dominique. Philip, you're next.
I would say have a cold shower. And then half an hour later, go to bed, sit on your bed, breathe, and just watch your thoughts. And then deeply try to develop a sense of gratitude for something that happened during the day. And then lights off and go to sleep.
Thank you, Philip. Very wise words. Tanya, you're the last one.
Yeah, okay. But what I have to say also about that is, which is very important for me, is also the theme of acceptance, especially with the children. It's a period of life. It's a time where you have to accept where things are like that. But also when you are an adult, the recent book I read about sleep, it's about 200 facts and questions about sleep. It really is also to accept sometimes that you are awake, and the most you try to sleep and look at the watch and saying, oh no, I have to sleep, I only have a few hours, so you don't sleep anymore because you get more and more excited. And what helped me is reading that the fact that also if you just lie still or try to get and breathe and change your mind already, now I'm relaxing. Also, if I'm not sleeping or not finding back to sleep, just that my body is resting, I will be still in a good shape, because sometimes we think also that we cannot sleep or we don't have good sleep, and actually sometimes you don't need also as much. Resting is also already good, and you can take it back the other night. And I think sometimes not fighting against it and not getting itself and just say, okay, I had now one night also, I knew already something really excited in was happened. I knew already from the beginning that I could not sleep well, and only this knowledge, I just accepted it. I said, okay, this night will be worse, but I just say, okay, I rest. I tried also a little bit breathing, and I said, I'll do the most out of it, but I didn't look the clock. I just said it happens when it happens. So.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. I'm going to share the last screen. First of all, I would like to thank you again for all the time that you took of your lives to participate in this docu debate. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for having shared this past 2 hours in your company and exchanging with you. Before we leave, I'm going to just share an important information. We're gonna, so the video, the whole docu debate today has been videotaped and will be uploaded within a week or the next 1 or 2 weeks in our YouTube channel, Weiterbildung, just as the name of the ASBL is, if you want to search for it. The next docu debate is going to take place on the 8th of July this year, and the topic is going to be about Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and collecting data. And it's going to be in English too, and it's a documentary already from 2019, but it's still a very hot topic. So that's the next docu debate. Again, thank you very much for the time. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna stay within us and do a debriefing. And I would like to wish everybody else a very good night and a very good weekend. And I hope that some of the advices will be applied if you need to, and I hope they'll bring some good sleep in your lives. Thank you very much again, and have a good night.